It's an honor for me to share with you my research entitled Clinical Profile and Survival Outcomes of Filipino Women with Uterine Sarcoma. This is a 10-year retrospective cohort study in a tertiary hospital in the Philippine General Hospital. I don't have any disclosure or conflicts of interest. I would just like to say that this study was conducted by the principal investigator, Dr. Celeste Zamuco Francisco, who was my fellow in training, and I was the supervising investigator in the Division of Gynecologic Oncology, Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology at the Philippine General Hospital, University of the Philippines in Manila. So to start, uterine sarcoma is a rare form of uterine malignancy that arises from the myometrium or connective tissue. The United States data would tell us that it comprises about 1 to 3% of all gynecologic malignancies and about 4 to 9% of all uterine cancer. In the Philippines, however, we don't have incidence and prevalence data. That's lacking in our country. We don't have data on clinical demographic profile of patients diagnosed with uterine sarcoma. There is also paucity of information on the overall survival, progression-free survival of these patients, as well as the relevant risk factors associated with the disease. And we attribute this to the rarity of the sarcoma coupled with its aggressive and lethal clinical course. Therefore, we conducted this study to generate more knowledge or to contribute more knowledge on these areas. This is a 10-year retrospective cohort study of uterine sarcoma patients seen in the Philippine General Hospital. Specifically, the study aimed to determine the clinical and demographic characteristics as well as the outcomes of Filipino patients diagnosed with uterine sarcoma. We looked at the prevalence, recurrence rate, the clinical demographic profile, survival rates, particularly the progression-free survival and overall survival, and the association of patients' clinical characteristics with these survival rates, as well as the association of these clinical characteristics with lymphovascular space involvement. So as I mentioned, this is a retrospective cohort study conducted from, the data that we gathered was from January 1, 2008 to December 31, 2014. Then we followed them up until December 31, 2017. The patients diagnosed with endometrial adenocarcinoma and those who did not undergo definitive surgery were excluded from this study. These were the information that we gathered: patient demographics, particularly age, BMI, gravidity parity, history of medical illnesses such as diabetes, hypertension, and cancer, and family history of associated cancers such as the breast and colon. Intraoperative findings included deep myometrial invasion, extrauterine involvement, pelvic and para-aortic lymph node involvement. Surgical procedure: was there complete surgical staging, or was there incomplete surgical staging, or was fertility sparing surgery done? For the tumor characteristics, we took note of the largest tumor diameter, the LVSI, presence of distant metastasis. And for the histologic subtypes included, we have leiomyosarcoma, MMMT, ESS, undifferentiated sarcoma, and adenosarcoma. Lastly, we took note of the adjuvant treatment received by the patients, whether chemotherapy and/or radiotherapy. The data were analyzed using the statistical software Stata13, and prevalence rates of uterine sarcoma and recurrence rates by histology and subtypes computed. Descriptive statistics were used for socio-demographic variables, and progression-free survival and overall survival were determined. The primary outcomes were the differences in the survival across patients with the different histologic subtypes, demographic factors, and treatment. We used Kaplan-Meier to estimate those. We also did multivariate analysis using log-rank test and Cox regression analysis. For all of these analyses, the level of significance used was a p-value of less than 0.05 using a two-tailed comparison. So what were the results? We had a total of 87 patients with uterine sarcoma. The median follow-up was 9 months. The median progression-free survival was 4 months. And the median overall survival was 36 months. However, if you take note, only 75 patients were included in the analysis for the progression-free survival, and only 17 patients had enough information to come up with a median overall survival. The demographic characteristics, the table may be small, but this table will tell us the demographic characteristics and the medical history of the patients included in the study. And the distribution of the histologic subtypes were, I'm not very sure if you can see it, but 23 for leiomyosarcoma, 15 for ESS, 10 for undifferentiated type, 4 for adenosarcoma, and 31 for carcinosarcoma. The median age of the patients was 55 years old, and those diagnosed with carcinosarcoma had the highest age group. Majority had normal BMI. Majority had their menarche between ages 11 to 14 years. Most of them were multiparous. Most of them were menopausal at the age of 45 years old and above. Almost all of them had no hormone replacement therapy, and about 74% did not use oral contraceptives. 83% of the patients were non-smokers. With regards medical comorbidities, about almost half of them had hypertension, and a few had other cancers. In terms of the preoperative diagnosis, almost half were diagnosed through endometrial biopsy, and about 33% were diagnosed postoperatively. This table shows us the clinical characteristics of the patients in terms of the symptoms they presented with. 93% had vaginal bleeding, 28% had pelvic pain, 26% had the pelvic mass, and 18.4% had other masses. Almost 52% had stage 1 disease, while 31% had stage 3 to 4 disease. Majority had ECOG 0. Almost half had tumor size ranging between 5 to 10 centimeters. About 35% had less than 50% depth of myometrial invasion, and 40% had more than 50% to full depth of invasion. And the site with the highest reported incidence of metastasis was in the cervix. 70% of patients had no lymphovascular space invasion, and about 88% had no lymph node metastasis. This table tells us the treatment characteristics of the patients. 48% underwent complete surgical staging with pelvic lymphadenectomy and para-aortic lymph node sampling. 3.4% had radical hysterectomy with bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy and lymphadenectomy. 1.2% had subtotal hysterectomy and BSO. 15% had radiotherapy afterwards, and 36.1% had chemotherapy. About 13% had both chemotherapy and radiation therapy. In this table or in this slide, you will see the data on progression-free survival that was available for 75 patients. The progression-free survival rate for this group were 45.7% for 1 year and 41.5% for 2 and 3 years. You will see in this part of the table the progression-free survival by histologic subtype. But log tests across all of these information show no difference in the progression-free survival across the different histologic types of uterine sarcoma. The slide will show us data on overall survival, which was available for only 17 patients. The overall survival rates for this group were 8.9% for 1 year and 61.4% for second and third year. The 1 year overall survival rate for each histologic subtypes were as shown, but log rank tests showed no significant differences in overall survival rates across the different histologic subtypes of uterine sarcoma. Now, this table will show us the Cox proportional hazards regression analysis to know the predictors of progression. There was no sufficient association between progression and histologic subtype, age, tumor size, adjuvant therapy. Regression, the results progression was seen or was statistically correlated with the surgical approach and the staging. Patients who underwent surgery did not have staging were at higher risk for progression compared to those who underwent full staging. and patients with more advanced stages of the disease were at higher risk for progression compared to those with stage 1 disease. In terms of lymphovascular space invasion, regression analysis involving all 87 patients showed that ESS is the histologic subtype that is associated with the highest risk for lymphovascular space invasion. Tumor size of more than 10 cm is associated with the highest risk for LVSI as well. And there is no association between the other clinical variables noted. So in spite of the advances in cancer screening and therapies over the past few decades, there is less progress made in improving survival of patients with uterine sarcoma. The ideal treatment protocol for uterine sarcoma is still lacking, and the prognostic factors are not well understood. We know already that it is very rare. As you can see in the study, there are only 87 patients included in the 10 years that was covered in the study. The mean age of the participants was 54 years old. This is consistent with other studies done in Thailand and by Chen et al. In 2018, which showed the mean age at 54 years old and 62 years old, respectively. Most of the patients were menopause at the time of diagnosis, and the postmenopausal status among patients with uterine sarcoma was common. This is also consistent with the studies in other countries. There is direct correlation between age and the incidence of cancer. Older women may have more potential exposure to toxins and unhealthy habits, which leads to mutation in the cells and eventual development of cancer. Majority of patients in this study were either overweight or obese. However, there was no direct association between the incidence of obesity and uterine sarcoma. The most common medical comorbidity was hypertension, but again, there was no correlation with that and incidence of uterine sarcoma. For this group of patients, the most common symptoms experienced was vaginal bleeding, and that was consistent with other studies done in other countries. However, the percentage of vaginal bleeding is way higher. It's 93.1% compared to the others, where patients experience it 68% of the time. 3/4 of the patient in the present study had tumor size greater than 5 cm, also consistent with other studies. The presence of LVSI was found in only 30% of patients, and lymph node involvement was found among 11.5% of patients. These rates are also comparable with findings of Poticul et al. In 2016. This study also demonstrated that uterine sarcomas are rare malignant gynecological tumors with poor prognosis, having progression-free survival of 3 years at 41.5% only, and overall survival at 61.4%. The median progression-free survival was 4 months, while the median overall survival was 36 months. Now, just a little discussion on each of the subtypes. Carcinosarcoma is an abnormal growth of tissue characterized by 2 cellular elements, which are epithelial and mesenchymal. This is the histologic subtype that had the highest incidence in this particular study. And the 1-year progression-free survival and overall survival were 47.4% and 60% respectively. I know that this type of tumor has already been removed from the sarcoma group and has been categorized under the poor histologic type of endometrial carcinoma, but its behavior, spread, and prognosis are similar to uterine sarcoma. And most of the literatures that we came across with still included carcinosarcoma in the sarcoma group. For the endometrial stromal sarcoma, this is an unusual type of mesenchymal neoplasm composed of cells resembling the endometrial stromal sarcoma of proliferative endometrium. The prevalence in this study is 17.2%. The 1-year progression-free survival and overall survival were 53.6% and 100% respectively. Leiomyosarcoma is a smooth muscle tumor, and it usually affects women 40 years old and above. The most common manifestations are vaginal bleeding, a palpable mass, and a pelvic mass. This is difficult to diagnose preoperatively. Most of the time, the preoperative diagnosis is myoma and only correctly diagnosed as leiomyosarcoma on final histopathologic report. The prevalence of leiomyosarcoma in this study is 26%. The 1-year progression-free and overall survival were 34.5% and 100% respectively. Now, adenosarcoma accounts for only 5% of uterine sarcoma. It has a low malignant potential and has better prognosis compared to other uterine sarcomas. Adenosarcoma has late local recurrence in about 20% of cases. In this study, we only had 4, and the 1-year progression-free survival was 33.3%. This study demonstrated that the extent of surgery and staging were significantly associated with progression-free survival. Patients who underwent surgery without staging were 7.76 times at higher risk for progression or poor outcomes compared to those who underwent staging. And patients with more advanced stages of the disease were at also higher risk for progression or having poor outcomes compared to stage 1 disease. In conclusion, in a span of 10 years, there were only 87 cases of uterine sarcoma diagnosed in the Philippine General Hospital. The observed 3-year progression-free survival was 41.5%, and the overall survival was 61.4%. You will see here the prevalence of each histologic subtype. The median progression-free survival was 4 months, while the median overall survival was 36 months. There was no significant differences in both progression-free survival and overall survival among different histologic subtypes of uterine sarcoma observed in this particular study. And multivariate analysis showed that lack of staging during surgery and more advanced stages of the disease were significant predictors of disease progression. One limitation of this study is the small number of size, as well as the retrospective nature. So we recommend a prospective study involving multiple institutions and large number of cases in order to have a very good prediction of the overall survival and progression-free survival of uterine sarcomas among Filipino women. There should also be documentation of the family, the pedigree of cancer, and other associated medical comorbidities and risk factors. The patient or the next of kin should be contacted to verify information written in the chart and to know the present status of the patients. Also, it will be beneficial for hospitals to have a database for uterine sarcoma patients, which includes socio-demographic characteristics and survival outcomes. And I'm happy to say that in our institution, this is already being started. These are my references, and thank you so much for your attention.